Hello everybody, and welcome to my channel. Sorry it's taken me a while to get some things up here, so I'm going to be doing this unedited. Excuse me, see, unedited. I'm going to be doing this unedited because I need to get something up. Some great changes in my life here, all positive, but I've been kind of busy, so that's why it's taking me. Let me adjust this camera since I'm doing it unedited. There we go. Alright, so this is where I talk about my passions of the Beatles, music, movies, and physical media, sometimes musical theater. Big Beatle news this week. Have you heard about it? You know you heard about it. What's the big Beatle news? Well, Apple Corps, or Apple Corps Incorporated, whatever their company's called, with Peter Jackson's company, Wingnut Films. You know Peter Jackson, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. A little trilogy that was a big hit, right? He has signed on to direct a new film from the 55 hours of footage from the Let It Be / Get Back sessions. Now we know Paul sort of teased about a new cut of the Let It Be film. This isn't a new cut of the film. This is going to be a new film. Something new altogether. Pretty excited about that. But I'm also cautious. And I'll get to that. But the other news that they said, in addition to this new film directed by Peter Jackson, which is good. He's getting critical acclaim for his World War I documentary that's out right now. I know Beatles and World War I, two different things. But in addition to that, a new restored version of Let It Be is going to be coming out. That is very exciting. I don't know if I've showed this before, but this is a bootleg copy of Let It Be I have on DVD. This was shown on the BBC back in '82, and they actually had it widescreen, so they were able to do a 16:9 transfer of this. So it was shown with black bars on the top and bottom of the screen. So they did a pretty good job of this. And I originally had a bootleg taken from the magnetic home video Laserdisc edition that came out. But that's pretty exciting. So the original Michael Lindsay Hogg film will eventually come out in a new restored version. I'm not going to speculate 5.1, is Giles Martin doing this or whatever. I'm not going to speculate right now. I want them to do it right. So, will there be a box set? Will there be any of that? I'm just happy right now that they announced that the final addition to the Beatles film catalog will be issued. And I'm excited about this Peter Jackson film, new film. Let's stress that, new film. Not a new cut of Let It Be, but a new film from the 55 hours of never-before-seen footage from the Get Back / Let It Be sessions. New film. Let's get that straight. In case you didn't hear me the first time, new film. I'm excited about that. Now, there's a lot of people who are reviewing the movie already before it's come out. There's a lot of people saying, so it's going to be a documentary about the making of the documentary. No, I don't think that's what they're saying. This is going to be a new film, fly on the wall, is what the press release said from Peter Jackson. Fly on the wall is going to give you that fly on the wall experience that it was supposed to give you from the beginning of the Beatles working. Probably edited better too. Like I said, the original Let It Be film, Michael Lindsay Hogg was a great director of music. Just check out the videos he directed for the Rolling Stones. Angie, It's Only Rock and Roll, The Who's joined together. He's a great, the Rolling Stones rock and roll circus, so he knows how to do music. I was a bit shocked, always sort of scratching my head over the haphazardness of the editing of Let It Be. I mean, Ringo's playing drums and there's not even a drum part going on. So I'm hoping that Peter Jackson will edit the musical numbers to the point where they will make sense. But I'm curious to find out what footage they're going to use. Now, in the press release, Peter Jackson had said, and I'm sort of paraphrasing this here. He said that he was happy to discover that the myth that the sessions were poor, relations were strange, is not totally true. That's where I'm getting skeptical. Now, supposedly what held up the release of Let It Be all this time, and if you hear some noise, my kids are playing Minecraft on Xbox in the other room, so I apologize for the screaming. But Olivia supposedly was one that kept on blocking the release of the original film. So this is probably, okay, release the original film if there's a new film showing a happier version. I don't know. This is my problem. This is a problem, and again, I'm not trying to prejudge the film. When it comes out, that's when I'll make my decision. I feel that way with any film, any piece of art. I don't want to pre-review it before I've seen it. Let me see it first, and then I'll make my judgment, because there's a lot of pre-reviews going on out there about this. But I am skeptical, because they were talking about a joyous version of the film at one point. And Olivia and Yoko, but Olivia in particular, was upset and didn't want the film released because of the acrimony that's in there. Everybody thought it was Paul and Ringo. It turned out that was not to be the case. I'm sure there was joy. And I'm sure Michael Lindsay Hogg probably did what he did because the other part told a better story. John looking totally strung out on heroin, which he was. Let's get that straight. George getting frustrated, Ringo looking bored, and Paul being kind of bossy. I always said if there was a break the Beatles should have taken, it should have been that period after the White Album. The White Album was still riding high in the charts, and Paul, he needed to get back to work, and came up with this idea. But supposedly they were all in on the concept. I mean, they could have said, Paul, screw you, we're not doing anything, But they didn't do that. They all said, yeah, sure, great idea, John. But we know what happened. They all discussed it. Now, is it possible that they discussed this and said all this stuff with negative a negative outlook because of the breakup? It's quite possible. We'll never know, because we can't get all four of them in the room anymore to really corroborate each other's story. But in the anthology, everywhere, everybody said that relationships were bad. And I'm sure there was, and then over the years, it's like, no, it wasn't all that bad. There were a lot of good moments, In fact, the good moments outweigh the bad and all this other stuff. So what I'm hoping with the film, and Apple, if you're listening, which I doubt you are, but Apple, if you are listening, I really felt you put some restrictions on Ron Howard with 8 days a week. I really do think you did. While I think the film is good, and I like the way it ties the Beatles into the historical issues that were happening at the time, there's a little left to be desired in that film. I know it's called 8 Days a Week, the touring years, and technically you talked, the years discussed in there were the touring years, but you really didn't focus on each of the tours. That's what the general premise was when it came out. And I felt restrictions were put on Ron Howard. Don't put any restrictions on Peter Jackson. If you're going to tell us, show the 55 hours of footage and put it in a coherent order, first off, don't do a 90-minute film. I am looking for a film that is epic in scope. So, I'm sorry, folks, 2.5 hours. 2.5 to 3 hours. Seriously. If you take anything in the Beatles story and you really want to examine it, first off, the Beatles story itself is epic in scope, but that period of the Beatles is also big in scope. There's a lot of different emotions and a lot of different themes. So yeah, I want a well-rounded 360-degree view of that period. I want the pain and the joy. So if there was joy, I wanted both. I will concede, I think Michael Lindsay Hogg focused on the pain. But I want a full, well-rounded view. Give me some truth. I don't want whitewash. Okay? That's what I don't want. I want a better movie. And I want this to knock it out of the park. Peter Jackson's a great director. I really do think Peter Jackson will make it epic in scope based on his movies, based on the Lord of the Ring trilogy, based on his King Kong remake, which I actually do love, based on the Hobbit trilogy that he did. So I could see him doing something that is big in scope and not something that is 86 minutes long the way 8 Days a Week was. So I'm excited to see what kind of footage they're going to have. And I'm excited about Let It Be finally being officially released. How they're going to do it, if it's going to be 2 separate releases or one big package, I don't know. I do think that the new film will be shown theatrically. Hopefully it gets a wider release than 8 Days a Week did. Now, what's my hope for Let It Be? Very simple. And it's not going to be what I know a lot of Beatles fans want, but the cinephile in me hopes this. The cinephile in me. Keep the original United Artists Transamerica logo. I know Apple owns it. But have the Apple logo, then put the UA logo, because I miss the UA logos. That may be nitpicky, but that's... I don't like it when new logos get plastered over the originals. You know, even though it's technically no longer a United Artists film. But I know it's going to look great. I know they're probably taking it from the original 16mm negative. And based on the work Criterion did with Gimme Shelter and Monterey Pop, even though it's not Criterion, you can get something excellent from a 16mm negative. So, going on 12 minutes here. Let me cut this here. So, exciting. Stay tuned for details. I'm curious. I know you're curious. Give me some of your thoughts in the comments here. And thank you for sticking with me. Thank you to my new subscribers. Hope you're all having a great new year. And I'll see you on the next one. Until we meet again.